Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Sharon Oyella, and today we're going to be putting together a little eyeball eating monster. I designed this guy for Halloween. He's a Halloween prop, and he's got a working zipper, and inside you'll find a delicious eyeball. So this eyeball pattern is also included in the monster pattern. So this tutorial is not a stitch-by-stitch tutorial, so you'll need to know basic stitches. This tutorial series is going to show you how to put all of his parts together, how to stitch in a zipper, it's actually pretty easy, and how to make the inside hollow and sturdy. This is going to be part one, and in part one we're working on the head first. We're going to be doing the eyes and sewing those onto the head. We'll do the ears and the hair, and then in part two, as soon as that's ready, because it's not available yet, it might be ready by the end of the day or tomorrow, we'll start working on the rest of the pattern. So by the time this series is done, you'll have the entire monster put together. You'll find his written pattern on my blog, and that can be printed off for free. That link is popping up here on your screen. It will also be in the description box below. There's nothing fancy in this pattern, it's all basic stitches, and if you need help with basic stitches, I do have 100 other videos here on YouTube that will walk you through most everything that's in this pattern. Once you get to the pattern page, scroll slowly down because there's a lot of information there in the beginning that will help you understand the pattern better, and also will show you how to print it off for free, and also will give you the supplies list. Let's go over the supplies list real quick. It's also in the written pattern, like I said. For the yarn I used Bernat Premium, and it's a 7-ounce package when I started, and I ended up making 2 monsters altogether, and this is how much yarn I had left over. So I used green for the body, orange for the alternate color, and yellow for the eyes. You of course can use any color combination of your choice. And with that yarn I used a size 3.75mm hook, that's a size F. I also used a blunt end yarn needle for sewing. I used some craft felt, and you can use any color you want. I chose red for the inside, and I also gave him a tongue. A pair of scissors, of course. A small amount of mesh sheet. This is plastic. You can find this in your craft stores or Walmart. I used a small amount of stuffing. And for his zipper, you can choose a long one if that's all you can find. We're going to end up trimming it down anyway. Just make sure it's at least 8 inches long, so you got enough there to work with. To sew the zipper in, I used regular sewing thread and a larger size needle. Just make sure that the sewing thread matches the same color as the body of your monster. So I used green, so I chose a green colored sewing thread. So I think that's about it for this part. You can go grab that written pattern, and then when you come back we're going to start with the eyes. I'm going to show you different things that we can do with the eyes, and then we're going to sew them onto the head. And like I said, as soon as part 2 is ready, it will pop up at the end of this video. Thanks so much for watching, and have fun! We're going to sew the eyes into place in the next clip, and before you do that you want to decide, are you going to be adding in the black felt like I've done? Those can be glued on after. I use hot glue. I just take black felt, cut a little circle, and then I glue them in place wherever I want them. The thing about hot glue is once it touches yarn you can't get it off, so you got to make sure that you're confident when you're using hot glue. You don't use too much. I just put a little tiny dot on the back and then push it into place. You can also use fabric glue. If you didn't want to use that, you can use black yarn, and you can see this is the right side and this is the wrong side. The wrong side gets sewn onto the doll's head, of course. So you would bring the yarn in from the wrong side out to the right side, and then you would just wrap over however many times that you wanted it to be wrapped. It all depends on the look that you're going for. So that was about 4 times. Now I could just knot these 2 yarn tails in the back and then cut them up shorter. And then finally, if you wanted to use a safety eye, depending on the size that you have and the type that you have, you of course need to stick those on before you sew the eye into place. And then you put the back on, and whatever type you have, I have metal ones, those just get pushed into place until they click. If you have plastic ones, it's a little bit different. So, alright, so in the next clip I'm going to show you how I sewed the yellow part to the doll. So let's sew the eyes in. Make sure that you've got the head piece and not the body, because they're very similar. The body has a wider part to it, and it's slightly different shape. There's also 16 rows in the body if you're not sure. But if you take a look at them, you can see the body has a little bit of a more of a bowl shape, and the head is straight up and down. So that shape here is going to give us a fatter tummy. So just make sure you set the body aside, and we're working with the headpiece. So depending on how you made your magic circle when you started off, you might have a tail sticking out here if you didn't crochet over it. If you do, just cut it up a bit shorter and tuck it behind the eye. And the top of the eye gets sewn just below the 7th row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So just under there, and you can just put a little bit of space between them. And the first time I go in, I'm just going to bring it just slightly underneath the edge of the eye, pull it through, and pull it snug. So when you come back through, we're going to sew around the inside edge. So we're not going to bring this yarn on this side here. We're going to keep the yarn on the inside edge of the eye. So when I go back in, I'm going to bring the needle right about there and go back in. And then when you're all done, we're just going to knot off here. So we'll just wrap the yarn around a little piece of green, and then bring it through that loop and pull. And then I'm just going to bring this underneath in between the green and the yellow on the inside, and then through. So I'll just carry the yarn underneath that eye, and now I can cut it free. If you wanted to add a nose, I didn't think either of mine needed a nose, and some people on Facebook didn't think they needed one either. But if you wanted to add a nose, you can certainly do that, and you could play around with looks. You could make a little ball and sew it on there. I was just thinking, how can we make this as simple as possible? What I might do is just take some of that green yarn, and I'll bring it in through the back, and I'll just wrap just a number of times to give it a little bit of a nose there. See what I'm doing? Just wrapping back and forth. And so I would just knot these together and then cut up a bit shorter. And then you just leave the knot hanging inside the head just like so, and we're done with the nose. In the next clip, I'm going to be showing you how I close the ear up in half. So I'm at the end of row 4 on the last stitch, and I'm going to show you how to close it up in half, and then we'll add the inner ear together. So I'm just working on the ear. I've just finished the last stitch of row 4, and in the pattern I tell you to fold the ear in half, and then we're going to single crochet through both sides. And that's all there is to that. So you just fold it in half. Now you're going to push your hook through both sides, through the first stitch and then through the other side, and do a single crochet like you normally would. And that's it. That's all we do for that. Now we're going to finish off. So I'm just going to cut free, leaving a tail for sewing. Alright, so let's add the inner ear to the outer ear. So before we put the inner ear into place, let's decide how we're going to attach it. You can use hot glue. Two things to keep in mind. If you do use hot glue, when you push it into place, it can come right through that center circle there and burn you, so just be really careful. And also, like I've said previously, once hot glue gets onto yarn, it's not going to come off, so you have to be very, very confident that you're going to get it in the right spot. So what I did with mine was I just put a little hot glue right around like this, not on the edge, just in the center, and then I pushed it into place. I'm going to sew this one into place to show you what that looks like. So I'm going to take this finishing yarn tail, instead of weaving it in, I'm just going to lay it back here. I'm going to cut it shorter. And I'm going to put it right into the ear. And I'm going to use this green yarn tail to sew it into place. I'm going to bring the green yarn tail, see where it's hanging there at the end. I'm going to weave it down behind the orange. There we go. And now I'm going to use it to sew all around the inside edge, just like we did the eye. And we're going to pull the yarn tail tight enough to make it disappear, the color green disappear inside the orange. There we go. Right through, to bring the yarn over just a little ways and then back through. And pull, and you don't see it. Now again, making it a short stitch, wrapping it over and through and pull. Okay, and then once you make it all the way around, then you just want to knot this off. Bring it through that loop and pull. Now you can weave this back up to the top of the ear, or to the top of this little part we made here, and now it's ready to be sewn onto the head. So now we're going to sew the ears onto the head, and this part is very easy. You can leave them pretty floppy like I've done here, or you can just add an extra stitch or two and have them sitting in a certain position. It's up to you how you do it. These get sewn above the 7th row. So again, we're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So right above there. And again, very easy. I'm just going to wrap the yarn around a stitch post, pull it through. I'll do that twice. You can consider that done already, and you could just knot that off, and then we'd carry the yarn tail inside and just cut it free. If you want it to have somewhat of a stable look to it, then we can stitch it down. So I just bring it through and then come up underneath here, pull the ear down, and then bring the yarn through to the other side of the ear and then into the head. And that's done. And of course you can play around with that a little bit more if you wanted to. All you have to do now is just knot it off. So just wrap around a bit of green, pull it through, and pull tight. I don't know if that knotted off or not, so I'm going to do it one more time. There we go. And I'll just pull tight. And now I'm going to cut this yarn tail up a bit shorter and leave it hanging inside the head. So that part is pretty much done for sewing in the pieces before we start attaching the zipper. If you wanted to stick the hair in, you can do that now. I'm just going to thread a strand of yarn. You don't have to use the same color I am. You can get creative with this part and do something totally different for his hair. I'm going to be knotting yarn strands off all around that center circle. So I just pull it through. And you don't need the yarn needle to do this. You can use your hook. Actually, it would be a lot faster actually. I don't know what I was doing there. So I just pull it through. And now I just knot these off. I'm going to knot them twice and pull tight. And that's done. Now I can pull another strand through. This time I'll use my hook a little bit faster. Push my hook through, see? One side to the other. Grab onto that yarn and pull it through. Pull one strand through. And then knot them together twice and pull tight. And once you have all the yarn strands in place, then you just cut them up shorter. And you can also split the strands. If you just take a look at the yarn, it's wrapped in a certain direction. Just unravel it. Twist it in the opposite direction that it's wrapped, and then pull the strands apart. We're done with that part of the head. Now we can set it aside. Alright, now we're working on the arms, and I've already got my little green guys done, and I'm going to be showing you how to close up the top of the arm and add the thumb on this one here. So I just got to the last row before we stuff the arm, so just take the stuffing and you push it all the way down to the bottom of the hand. And when you are stuffing, make sure that you get even amounts of stuffing in both arms and hands. Now we're going to close up the arm. And in the pattern it says to close up the arm by single crocheting across the top or single crochet through both sides. And that's basically all we're doing. We're just going to push our hook right through the first stitch and then across the other side through the other stitch. And then we single crochet as normal. And now into the next one and across the other one. And there we go, we're done, and the arm is closed up. Now we're going to finish off. Leave a tail for sewing. You're going to use this tail to sew the arm to the body. Let's make a couple of thumbs, and when you're doing your thumbs, you want to make sure that when you sew the thumb down, that they will be facing each other once you get the arm sewn on. So you want to make sure that you have left and right, and I'll explain that as soon as I get my thumb made here. So let's do it together. We're going to pull yarn through the 5th and 6th row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, so in between there, and grab a surface stitch, just like so. And then bring your yarn in, lay it over the hook, and pull it through. Grab onto that shorter yarn tail, hang on to it so it doesn't pull through, and get ready to crochet on, switch fingers, chain 1. Now we're going to make a bobble, and we're going to do so by using 5 double crochet, and don't worry, I'm going to walk you through each one. So we're going to yarn over, go through that same space we pulled the yarn through, pull the yarn through, and now you have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull through the first 2 only. That was 1 completed stitch, and now we have 2 loops on our hook. We're going to keep doing this until we have 6 on our hook. Yarn over, go through, pull the yarn through, yarn over, and pull through the first 2 loops only. Now we have 3 loops on our hook. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops only, and now we have 4 loops on our hook. Yarn over, pull the yarn through, yarn over, and pull through the first 2 loops only. And now we have 5 loops on our hook. So we have to do this one more time. Yarn over, pull the yarn through, yarn over, and pull through the first 2 loops only. And there's our 6 loops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now we can yarn over and pull through all 6 loops. And we're done. We just made a bobble. Now pull that yarn tail through that loop and pull tight. And a bobble will look like a bowl, and depending on which side you're going to sew the thumb down to, because remember we want a left and a right, you just push from underneath and make the bowl. And now you can take this yarn tail and sew it down. If we're going to do it the other way, then you push the bowl the other way. And then you can sew it down on this side. When you sew it down, it's very easy. Just pull the yarn underneath that bobble and come out somewhere where it's comfortable to come through. And that's all there is to that. Now we can just knot off. Because we're using the same color, we can knot off right here. It's knotted off. Now I'll just pull it through. Pull in it slightly and cut. And same for the starting yarn tail. That can just be pulled through. If you wanted to knot it off, you could do that as well. And our one thumb is done. So when you do the second thumb, of course you'd be sewing it down the opposite direction. Alright my friends, with those arms done, we're going to set those aside. Those don't get sewn on until after the body has been put together. So we're going to head over to part 2, and over in part 2 I'm going to show you how to sew the legs on and the tail, and also do this little orange bit here. And we're going to do all of that together. So you can go ahead and hit that box that's popping up on your screen, and I'll meet you over in the next video. I'll see you there.